This episode is brought to you by VPP Simplified. Now you can get element by element tracking and guidance for your VPP journey. Every aspect of the VPP requirements in one easy-to-use interactive spreadsheet. Achieving VPP star status can be tough, but understanding what it takes to get there can be simplified. This VPP Gap tool will help you do that. Go to vppsimplified.com for more information.
Welcome to the Safety Pro Podcast, where we help you manage workplace safety one episode at a time. And now, your very own Safety Pro, Blaine J. Hoffman.
Welcome to another episode of the Safety Pro Podcast. In this episode, we are going to talk about 4 safety and health investments you need to be making. Obviously, there are more than 4. But this is another great article from our friends at iReportSource. I thought I would share it with you because it makes perfect sense. These 4 safety and health investments that you need to be making. I'll run them down and expand a little bit on each one and what it means to you. Now, obviously, each year you want to do all you can to protect the health and safety of your workers. And, any upcoming year is going to be no different. You're going to have to look at what you're going to spend money on each year, whether it's putting together your safety and health budget, having to submit a budget, but you want it to make sense. So that those investments are going to pay off. I mean, after all, the average return on safety investment is anywhere as much as $4 and just shy of $4.50 for every dollar that's spent, okay? I think it's around $4.41, okay? But how do you prioritize your safety and health investments? How do you go about saying, of all the things that I could ask for in my budget and invest in and spend money on, these are the things I have to be doing? That's a question I get a lot as well. We have so many things to do. We only have so much money. How do I pick and choose? Where do I start? Well, depending on the resources you have, available to you, these 4 areas are the ones that I would want you to consider at least out of the gate. Now, before I get into these 4, I want to tell you a little bit about the official floor marking floor sign company of the Safety Pro Podcast. That is Mighty Line Floor Tape. They know how important safety is to your organization, and the breadth of the Mighty Line product line covers everything you need to implement a 5S system for the increased productivity of your facility and the safety of your workers. Mighty Line's 5S floor markings and floor tape are a great way to stay organized. They have everything from, obviously, floor tape, but they have angles, dots, arrows, just to name a few. Of course, what makes Mighty Line so mighty is their patented technology. They're different than any other type of floor tape that you're going to find out on the market. One, they're 7 times thicker than the average floor tape. They have a beveled edge, which makes it uniquely durable for forklift, traffic, scissor lifts, carts, things like that. Peel and stick adhesive removes easily. And of course, it's all made right here in the USA. And then everything they have to make it easier for you to apply and remove their products. If you go to their website, I'll have a link here in the show notes, but for example, Tape Terror, the ultimate tape dispenser. You got to see this thing. They really make it easy for you to apply their products, and that's what I like about Mighty Line is it's Mighty Line tape. It's made specifically for this one unique application in keeping your employees safe by marking and demarcating areas of the production facility. But they also support their products with unique tools to make it easy for you to apply. So go to their website and look at some of their products like Tape Terror and the new Mighty Liner 2-inch, 3-inch, and 4-inch floor tape applicator. And these tools, you have no excuse. You have no excuse to have great-looking floors that are durable, that reduce the amount of maintenance that's required, and keep your employees safe. So go check them out. Get a free sample of Mighty Line floor tape today. Go to mightylinetape.com/podcast. Fill out the form. Get a free sample sent directly to you. Again, mightylinetape.com/podcast. Okay, so what are the 4 things that you need to be investing in to improve safety and health in your organization? 1, safety performance indicators. I've talked about this in other episodes, and it's still somewhat elusive to a lot of safety professionals. Okay, what KPIs or performance indicators should I be focusing on and why? Well, it's important for any business to be able to show and measure its safety performance. You need to be able to learn faster, spot critical areas that need attention before they, go south on you, and of course, take consistent action to support safety and health. And what drives all of this are identifying and developing key performance indicators that matter. So prioritizing and recording and tracking of these leading indicators, of course, they're going to result in more timely preventative and corrective action, the ability to better respond and recognize hazards. Actually, not just recognize hazards, you're going to want to predict hazards, right? And of course, more effective prevention through design and training as a result. So if you haven't already, make an investment in a comprehensive tool that can simplify or make this kind of real-time reporting possible. You know where I'm going with this. I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face. You need a digital solution. You need to be able to put every safety concern, safety suggestion, near miss, mishap, property damage, doesn't matter, injuries, illnesses. You need a digital tool to put all of the stuff in so that it can, in real time, actually show you metrics and predict. You should be able to predict where your next accident may occur or the likelihood based on all of this data from the past, right? So you're also going to want to do hazard assessments, inspections, things like that, and to put into this digital system so that these predictive measurements can be produced. Okay, so look for, however you do it, look for a digital solution, okay? The other thing about leading indicators or predictive measures is you want to get away from, the lagging indicators. I've talked, again, go back and listen to some of these other past episodes where we talk a lot about this. But making that transition is key, and you may not be able to do it overnight, especially certain business leaders at a high level. They're just simply saying, hey, how many injuries did we have? How many recordables did we have? How many insurance claims were, submitted in the last year? At a high level, I get that. That's sort of a driver for them. But, it may take you some time to get people swinging around to how many inspections did we miss last year? How many safety concerns got reported? How many near misses? Things like that. Those are sort of the leading indicators. What percent of our preventative maintenance or PMs are overdue? What was our closure rate for the safety concerns and near misses? For the findings, how many of them resulted in process improvements versus policies and coaching? These are things that take a little more thought, right, and take a little more time to digest, but you can come up with a dashboard that, in a scorecard that tells, business leaders at the executive level, real quick snapshot of, hey, a score of, 0 to 100, our business scores, 88%. On safety and health for last year, and then here's why, top 3 drivers of that. If they want to see where this all comes from, they can dig into that. But you can create these dashboards. You can put this data in, and then the output can be sort of these performance indicators and these scorecards. And doesn't matter what you call it, the dashboard or scorecard, there are digital tools that can help you do this. So ditch Excel, ditch database, and all that extra work you have to do, and make it easy to track this stuff. So that was one. One important investment you need to be making is, how do we modernize the way we collect, analyze, and view all of this data? Okay? Invest in that. Along those lines, number 2, you should be investing in streamlining your workflows. Now, many organizations are taking steps to have this, all-in-one safety workflow. Okay, this means that leaders across different departments, different plants, different parts of the country can collaborate on safety together. More specifically, they can collect and then manage incident reports, tasks, progress reports, and all of the safety activities, audits, findings from audits can be shared. And you really enhance learning across the organization that way. When you have a near miss in one area of the building or at one plant or in one region of the country, and you go through your root cause analysis, you assign tasks to folks with your digital tools, and you document the findings and the closure results and what was done, and you publish those across the organization. At a glance, everybody can see what we've learned from that and can take that and run with it in their areas as well. This is important. So that workflow, you've got to streamline this. If you're doing this offline and you're creating a PowerPoint slide that you then have to send out, and then you create separate talks that you want supervisors to conduct at shift change meetings, and you have everything is done offline, that the work becomes burdensome and you miss a lot of detail. But when you streamline your workflow, especially with a digital solution, then it makes it a lot easier. People can see what you're learning as you update the case files and as you publish, the photos, and you assign tasks to key people and pull them into this process. That's key and that's powerful. And you're able to do that with a digital solution. So, just find one that works, okay? But that's what you should be investing in, if nothing else, streamlining your workflows, okay, your safety workflows. The third thing is leadership training and development. All right, we're going offline a little bit here because you can't replace this human interaction. Now, the first two things, they're going to free you up. That's going to pay you back a lot of time and frustration so that you can focus on engaging people where the work happens. And developing leaders in your organization is critical. So time and time again, research has shown how leadership, right, direct, supervisors, they're tied to employee engagement and safety. And there are 3 examples that I'm going to give you. One study showed that there was a lower lost time injury rate when leaders displayed concern and care for the workforce. Now, how do you do that? How do you show, concern and care for the workforce? Well, you could put some training programs together that through actions can demonstrate this sort of emotional response that we want employees to have with their supervisors, right? This is what we're trying to elicit. So what actions can a supervisor take? 1, doing frequent safety walks where we are checking to make sure that they have everything they need. Not, policing and discipline, but more a very purposeful presence on the floor where the work happens, saying, hey, do you have everything you need? What can I get for you? How is this working for you? And, setting up a rhythm and a weekly inspection and having that assigned to a supervisor where they have to fill it out and turn it in, and then they're scored on that, how many of these did you miss? And it's part of their performance appraisal. And again, it isn't so that we're checking a box. It's because we know there's a direct link with being purposeful out on the floor, engaging employees about safety and health, and lower lost time injury rates, according to this study, right? We know there's a direct correlation. So we're after the net effect. We're not just after throwing up on the board and saying Bob missed 2 of his inspections last month, his weekly audits last month. Shame on Bob. No, we know that if we slip there, if we start to slide, that's a predictive measure that eventually we're going to have an increase in lost time injuries, right? So that's another key performance indicator. If you go back to the first one, a suggestion I made, develop one of these as a key performance indicator, a leading indicator. How good, I'm using air quotes, how good are we at engaging workers where the work happens and documenting those efforts and making sure that we do it? So that was one side. Another study showed that empowering workers, good relationships between management and workers, and an active role by top management in safety and health positively impacted injury rates. Empowering workers. Do they have the ability to log safety concerns, safety suggestions, near misses, immediately when they happen? Give them the tools. And one of the tools is going to be a digital solution. I'm sorry, but in this year, 2019, at the time of this recording, there's no excuse to not have a digital solution for employees to be able to notice a safety hazard concern, put out a sign if they can't fix it themselves, and go immediately grab their phone, take a photo, or go to their workstation and log it and have it automatically get routed to facilities, the safety leader, the supervisor, whoever. I mean, there's no excuse for that, but that's empowering workers to go to this pull system instead of just pushing this off and saying, hey, somebody will take care of that. No, they get to pull the resources they need to take care of that issue right then and there, because that impacts them where the work happens. If they notice this, they can take the initiative, own that, and every time this safety concern or hazard report is routed or assigned or modified or changed, that they get a notification, they're in the loop. So that empowers workers. So we know that by empowering them, and then of course developing, strengthening that relationship between top management by showing that we respond to those concerns when they put them in, that will reduce or positively impact injury rates. A third study showed that the amount of energy and creativity shown by top managers and safety coordinators was a top factor in reducing injuries. So creativity. So let's talk about this. The simple act of rolling out a digital solution or a program that allows workers to report and pull the resources they need to get things done, that simple act of rolling out a program like that can make a huge impact and create positive energy among the workforce. So invest in leadership training and development, but also on how to use these tools effectively. All right, so that's sort of those three studies, right? Offline, outside of a digital solution and these tools and programs that we've put in place to empower employees, to track how engaged our supervisors are with the workforce and all that good stuff, develop some training for your supervisors. Take a step back and say, hey, what training program do we put our supervisors through? How do we track that? Do we use the National Safety Council's, leadership safety program? Do we use Principles of Occupational Safety and Health for all supervisors? It doesn't matter what you do, but have some curriculum, have materials, have a qualified person presenting and helping to develop these supervisors, these frontline supervisors, make them, coach them to be safety leaders, and that, you get a lot closer to where the work happens with your safety program by doing that. It's a force multiplier, if you will. So focus on leadership training and development. Okay. Ultimately, leaders have a major role in shaping your culture. And it's these same leaders that can help to unleash discretionary thinking and behaving in employees that can benefit your company's performance and day-to-day safety. The fourth thing that you need to invest in, and if you invest in some of the other ones we just talked about, you're going to net some of this stuff I'm going to talk about in this fourth item. And that is the overall employee experience. Creating a positive, differentiated employee experience is of paramount importance. It cannot be overstated, okay? Now, that starts with doing research to see what experiences employees are having now and where those touch points can improve. It may take a little bit of work to define your employee experience and then to see where any gaps are. But, here's just a few common areas that you may look to focus where you spend your time. Recruiting and hiring. What is that experience like for the employees? Does it take too long? Do we start with safety? Do we have any kind of tours? Do recruiters know and understand sort of the culture we're looking for? Are we getting the right people in up front and not having to retrain or reteach or re-engineer people when they come in the door, right? So what's the recruiting and hiring process like? What is that experience like for our new hires? What about our company values and how that matches up with some of our, basic expectations out on the floor? Now, I've seen this before in my past where you have a sort of a corporate values statement and posters, and then the safety program kind of runs counter to that. So they need to mesh. Check your company values and how that matches up with the expected behaviors and values that you're trying to create with your safety program. Your whole onboarding process, I've talked about this before, taking a step back and looking at how much time and effort is invested in onboarding. Do we hand them some company manual, and they sign that they've received it, and boom, they're out on the job with a worker that was there a month before them, so they're now qualified? Or do we, sort of sit down with them for a day or two and go over a lot of the corporate policies and procedures, the high level, sort of set that tone? We cover the benefits and the HR stuff as well, but then we do a tour and we get them familiar, with it's sort of a toe in the pool type of thing, testing the water. We don't just shove them in to see if they can swim. We prepare them so that when they enter the water, they don't sink. And there's a difference. It's a mindset shift, right? So we take them on a tour. We introduce them to people. We have a supervisor or an area manager pick up a tour and take them through that area so they get familiar with some of the site leadership. We rotate people in and out of the orientation that present for them. There's so many things you can do with the onboarding process that really impact that employee experience in a positive way. Okay, so take a look at onboarding. What about reward and recognition practices? What do we reward and recognize? What do we reinforce? If our recognition program pretty much consists of, hey, Blaine's getting 5 web bucks today because, he produced the most parts, when everybody knows Blaine hardly wears the safety glasses. He cuts 2 or 3 corners to get those numbers. So what are we recognizing and rewarding? Be careful. I did, it was several episodes back. If you scroll back 3 or 4 episodes ago, employee recognition programs that work, right? You got to be careful with those. You may inadvertently be reinforcing and recognizing and rewarding the wrong behavior, and it could work against you. So look at your reward and recognition practices. What about community-related efforts? I shouldn't be shocked, but I'm still pleasantly surprised at the number of interviews that I sit in on and candidates ask, do you guys do any team building events outside of work where you volunteer in the community to do charity work, stuff like that? That is important to a lot of people, a sense of community, a sense of purpose that, I work here and I make widgets, but you know what? This place employs people, it takes care of families, and they take what they produce and reinvest it in the community, the schools, the homeless shelter, the soup kitchen, the food pantry, Habitat for Humanity. We do these events once a year as a team. We go out and it feels good. Okay, that employee experience. So community-related efforts, take a look at that. Don't be afraid to look at those. Take it outside your 4 walls. We used to say in small business when my wife and I owned a couple of franchise stores, and we used to say, it's 4 walls, 4 blocks, 4 miles. That impact that you have, you should be looking at those sort of segmented areas. What are we doing within our 4 walls? What about within our 4 blocks? How are we treating the neighbors, and whether it's our plant or our factory is too loud, or are we, storing junk outside that's unsightly? I mean, we want to, be good neighbors. And then in the community at large, what are we doing to have a positive impact and continue to develop this pipeline of people, whether it's going to the tech schools, trade schools, working with the local high school? What are we doing to positively impact the community? Employees are looking for that more and more nowadays. So take a look at that. What about workspace design and just the general environment? I mean, ergonomics. Your ergonomics program can have a huge impact on the worker experience. They want to feel comfortable. Do you have an on-site gym? Do you have, discounts at the local Y to help them stay in shape and healthy? And that gets into, well-being and wellness programs that can impact just the overall work environment. And then coupled with physical workspace design, those two can complement each other quite a bit. Of course, compensation and benefits, you're looking at those. This gets out of safety, but think about it. If people are unhappy at work, they're disgruntled, their mind is somewhere else, they're thinking about whether I should stay here or not because something as basic as compensation or benefits. I mean, safety leaders may not have a direct impact on this, but we definitely know there's a correlation between overall well-being at work and happiness and their performance when it comes to safety. So, and of course, safety and health. Look at your safety and health program always. Communication of workplace risks and issues related to safety. How good are we at communicating things as they happen, things that we notice and fix and solve? And, and that goes back to that digital solution of being able to communicate in real time what we're learning and, our employees included in that. That speaks to employee experience. If they're kept in the dark for the most part and only a select few supervisors are really have an idea of what's going on, employees want to know, hey, I know that there was a forklift incident over in shipping yesterday. We haven't heard anything about what's going on. They're all quiet about it. Being transparent and learning along with us, you want to bring them along on that journey. That speaks to employee experience and also gets us to continuous learning opportunities. Always be helping employees learn, whether it's a first aid team, a safety committee, and then rotating folks out. So over the course of several years, everybody's gone through these programs, being a safety rep on their team, creating these experiences for the employees, positive experiences that endears them to the company. They're invested. They're likely to stay longer, be more productive, and safer. Events and activities, just, having a wellness day, having a safety day or a safety fair, having some sort of employee family picnic that's just employee related. It goes hand in hand with like community related events, but this is more internal, taking a break and saying and getting together outside of work as a work family and saying, hey, we care about those who work here and we want to do something special for you and have a picnic or a family day, something like that. Go to a local park, have it at the workplace if you want to, but get with HR, get with some supervisors, get a little committee together and say, hey, what event can we do once a year that is pretty easy to pull together, it's reasonable, but would really create a positive experience for our employees. Get a small committee and focus group together, a good cross-section, by the way, of the organization, and start working on that. Coaching, both informal and formal coaching. Are we coaching on a day-to-day basis naturally? Are we developing a learning and coaching organization? So safety leaders, I talk about this all the time. There's a difference between you going out and auditing a work area to write up and then get things fixed versus you going out and auditing an area, the management of that area, right? So, and that's where we want to position ourselves. We want to get into a position of we've created safety coaches and leaders with the frontline supervisors and some peer leaders on safety committees and groups, but we're auditing that process. We're supporting them and coaching them. They in turn are coaching each other and continuing to develop. Those are all positive experiences for employees, and don't underestimate, continuous learning opportunities and coaching, both informal and formal. And of course, employee feedback. Have a way to have employees provide feedback to the organization. A lot of these sound like not just safety, they're just general employment best practices, and they are. But safety is no different. Safety is no different. As a matter of fact, I would say to general business leaders and HR leaders, you want to create some positive experiences and, safety. Look at your safety program. Use safety as a recruitment, retention, and development tool. It's huge. It's very powerful. I did an episode on the Gallup survey of 12 core questions every manager should know and how you can use safety to answer all 12 of those questions we are asking our employees, right? So check that one out as well. And then, of course, exit interviews. This one gets dicey, but hey, if, poor safety, poor training, no future, those types of feedback you get from exit interviews, that we should be looking at those experiences, those employee experiences, and seeing how we can improve or reinforce the positive ones, okay? But hey, engaged employees, they are advocates for your business, for your company, okay? They are less likely to become complacent on the job. They also create a competitive advantage that is really hard to reproduce. You're going to beat the competition, but more importantly, you're going to do that through creating positive work experiences, having a positive work atmosphere. You have the tools that empower employees to pull the resources they need to get their job done in a safe manner. And then you've got good data that you are able in real time to respond before things happen and stay ahead of disaster, essentially. So look, if you want to achieve safety success, I want you to invest in those 4 things, at least those 4 things. There are many tools to help you do that and meet that, but I highly, highly, highly encourage you to move away from these manual systems and processes that are just time sucks for you. You know what I'm talking about. If you like these things, I'm going to go out on a limb and risk offending some people and saying that you're doing it wrong. If you really enjoy sitting down behind the desk, locked up, running, pivot tables and dissecting all this data and putting together these Excel spreadsheets, you spend 4 hours a week getting ready for the weekly meeting. No, you should be able to just pull up a dashboard live when you walk into the meeting and go, here's where we are, let's talk about it. Not putting together all this data, presenting what this data means in the meeting, and then leaving very little time to actually talk about how we're going to either pivot, persevere, or stop doing something that we shouldn't be doing. That's what I'm getting at. Invest in the technology you need. It's affordable and it's available right now, and it can be customized to your organization, but it will work. I've done it for years. I'm continuously shocked at the number of companies and safety leaders, to be honest, that are not embracing technology that makes sense. Now, it does have to make sense, not just for technology's sake, but it should support your efforts to improve workplace safety, and it should pay you back. The ROI here is that you get timely data, you have less work, and you have more time to focus on what matters, and that is our people. Look, I want to hear your thoughts on this, okay? Shoot me an email. The email link is in the show notes. I want to hear your thoughts on how you have figured out how to manage all this stuff and what tools you're using, okay? If you're using iReport Source, let me know. Let me hear about it. What's your experience? And, how did you hear about them? If you're not familiar with them, there's a link in the show notes. But I'm telling you, find something, okay? That's what I want you to do going forward into this new year, or whenever you're listening to this episode. Don't delay. Invest in at least these 4 areas of your program. Again, keep the emails coming. I love hearing about them. And until the next Safety Pro podcast episode, as always, be safe.